Standard Pranam. Shri Nandanandanashtakam. Sucharu Vakramandalam Sukarnaratsnakundalam Sucharchitangra Chandanam Namami Nandanandanam. Sudirghanetra Pankajam Shikhi Shikhandamurdhajam Ananga Koti Mohanam Namami Nandanandanam. Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam. Sunasika Gramauktikam Swachandadantapanktikam Navambudagachikkanam Namami Nandanandanam. Karena Venuranjitam Gati Karindra Ganjitam Dukula Pita Shobhanam Namami Nandanandanam. Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam. Tribhanga Deha Sundaram Nakhadyuti Sudhakaram Amulya Ratna Bhushanam Namami Nandanandanam. Sugandha Angra Saurabham Puro Viraji Kaustubham Surukshrivatsalanchanam Namami Nandanandanam. Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam. Vrindavana Sunagaram Vilasanogavasasam Surendra Garvamochanam Namami Nandanandanam. Brajangana Sunayakam Sada Sukha Pradayakam Jaganmana Pralobhanam Namami Nandanandanam. Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam. Sri Nandanandanashtakam Patedya Shraddhayanvita Tared Bhavati Dushtaram Labhet Tadangri Yugmakam. Sri Nandanandanashtakam Patedya Shraddhayanvita Tared Bhavati Dushtaram Labhet Tadangri Yugmakam. Sri Nandanandanashtakam Patedya Shraddhayanvita Tared Bhavati Dushtaram Labhet Tadangri Yugmakam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We just quickly read through the translations, Prabhu. I offer pranamam to Nandanandana, whose face is extremely delightful, in whose beautiful ears hang jeweled earrings, and whose entire body is anointed with fragrant chandanam. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, whose eyes are more beautiful than fully bloomed lotus, whose head is beautifully adorned with an arrangement of peacock feathers, and who enchants millions of pupils. Krishna, third stanza. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, from whose beautiful nose hangs an elephant pearl, whose teeth are immensely effulgent, whose bodily complexion is more beautiful and lustrous than a fresh rain cloud. Krishna, fourth stanza. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, whose lotus hands hold the flute, whose lingering jade fan defeats even that of an impassioned elephant, and whose dark limbs are beautiful by a yellow shawl. Eighth stanza. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, whose threefold bending posture is exquisitely elegant, and effulgence of whose toe nails put to shame even the moon, and who wears invaluable jewels and ornaments. Hare Krishna, sixth one. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, whose body exudes an especially beautiful fragrance, and whose broad chest is adorned with Kaustuba jewel and mask of Srivastava. Sorry, mark of Srivastava. And seventh stanza. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, the expert lover of Vrindavana, who performs immaculate pastimes and who is attired in clothes which are suitable for those pastimes, and who pulverized the pride of Indra. Eighth stanza. I offer pranam to Nandanandan, who, as the lover of the Vraja Gopis, perpetually delights them and who enchants the minds of all living entities. Hare Krishna. Whoever regularly recites this Sri Nandananda caste will easily cross the seemingly insurmountable ocean of material existence and attain eternal residence of the at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So let's get to prayers and then. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamadyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanostute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraya Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रे नमो ब्रह्मण्याय देवाय गो ब्राह्मणाय च जगद्हिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
करोति वाचनं बंगुलगायत गिरमित कृपातमाहं वन्दे परमं श्री गुरुवायूर श्री गुरुं दीनतारणं वन्दनं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम् ओम पवित्र पवित्र नो सर्वं यो नंदरी पक्षाय श्री विष्णु श्री विष्णु श्री विष्णु कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna, welcome to the Bhagavatam class. So we will be doing the fourth canto, seventh chapter, right? So let's look at that. The fourth canto, so the first 7 chapters are about the Daksha, right? The whole Daksha Yajna ends at the 7th chapter. So if you look at the fourth canto, it's all about Swayambhu Manu and the dynasty basically. So and his 3 daughters and 2 sons, and this is where the whole story goes on. So this is the last chapter where we are talking about Daksha and Prasuti. So until the 6th chapter, we have seen Daksha Yajna, and then how Sati, kills herself, and how Shiva gets angry and he comes and destroys the whole arena of Daksha, and then the Daksha's head is separated, and all the destruction happens, and then Shiva goes back to Kailash, and he's talking to all his disciples, all his devotees there, and that is when Brahma comes and talks to him, and then Shiva comes back to the Yajna arena, and that's what the 7th chapter is. So here, the sacrifice performed by Daksha. So no, then Shiva forgives Daksha, and then the sacrifice continues. So we'll talk about few shlokas today. Probably the first few shlokas, how Lord Shiva, with his mercy, revives Daksha's life, right? How Lord Shiva revives Daksha's life. This is what we are looking today, basically. So here there are about 12 to 15 shlokas we'll try to complete, and then Giriraj Prabhu will continue next tomorrow, basically. So let's start with the first shloka. the sacrifice performed by Daksha, right? This is again the conversation between Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni is speaking, is explaining the whole thing to Vidura, and the conversation continues from the previous chapter where where Brahma has actually pacified Shiva, and then now Shiva comes and comes to the Yajna arena and then continues and helps Daksha to continue with the Yajna. Hare Krishna. We'll start with the first shloka.
Hare Krishna. Maitre Vacha iti agnenanunitena bhavena paridushyata abhyadhayi mahabaho prahasya shuyatamiti. Translation. The sage Maitreya said, O mighty armed Vidura, Lord Shiva, being thus pacified by the words of Lord Brahma, spoke as follows in answer to Lord Brahma's request. Hare Krishna.
So what did Brahma request actually? So what did Brahma request? So he asks Shiva to come back and accept his share of Yajna basically. So here the Maitreya Muni is telling Vidura, Lord Shiva, being thus pacified by the words of Lord Brahma, spoke as follows in answer to Lord Brahma's request. Let's see what Lord Shiva is speaking. So here Lord Shiva is saying, my dear Father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods because these demigods are childish and less intelligent. I do not take a serious view of their offenses and I have punished them only in order to fight them. This is a powerful statement and words that are coming out from Shiva. My dear Father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods. This speaks of a pure Vaishnava quality, right? Why did Shiva get angry? Shiva was never angry when Daksha is insulting him. Shiva didn't care if Daksha is insulting him. But Shiva got offended or angry when Sati is insulted. When a Vaishnava, when a devotee of Vaishnava, another Vaishnava gets insulted, that is when Shiva got angry. And again, because he understands, he's calling demigods are childish and less intelligent. See, we think we are very intelligent. Here, Lord Shiva is saying, demigods themselves are very childish and less intelligent. I do not take a serious view of their offenses and I have punished them only in order to fight them. Hare Krishna. Here, Lord Shiva is saying demigods are childish and less intelligent. Here on earth, we feel and we worship a lot of demigods, right? Especially in Andhra Pradesh, in Telangana, and Telugu areas, we have hundreds of demigods whom we worship as gods, basically. And here, I mean, not demigods, we have hundreds of human beings whom we think they're gods and we worship. Here, Lord Shiva is calling even demigods as less intelligent. Let's see the purport of Prabhupada. There are two types of punishments. One is that which a conqueror imposes on an army and an enemy, and the other is like a father imposes on his son. See, there is a gulf of difference between these two kinds of punishments. Lord Shiva is by nature a Vaishnava, a great devotee, and his name in this connection is Ashutosha, is always satisfied. And therefore, he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. He is not inimical to any living entity. Rather, he always wishes the welfare of all. Whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment of his son. Lord Shiva is like a father because he never takes seriously of any offenses by any living entity, especially by demigods. So this speaks more about Lord Shiva than the pain or any offense that other people have created. Again, Daksha, just out of envy, he insulted Shiva, but Shiva just took it as a childish act, and he punished him to fix him. He punished him to correct him. Right? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, some of us who went to Ujjain, we have seen the lots of Shivas there. Does anybody wants to talk about a little bit of what we have seen in Ujjain, the kinds of Shivas we met in Ujjain? Anybody here who has come to Ujjain Yatra? Hare Krishna, Dasraj Prabhu. Anybody else there? You want to join?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You want to talk a little bit about the Ujjain Shivas that we have seen, Prabhu?
Oh, yes, yes, Prabhuji, definitely. I think, we had visited almost, two Jyotirlingas and one Swayambhuvu. One Jyotirlinga was Mahakal in Ujjaini. One is Mamleshwar near Omkareshwar, which is a Jyotirlinga, and other Omkareshwar, actual Omkareshwar is a Swayambhuvu Linga, is what we were told there. So I think, it was definitely, different experience visiting, Shiva's temples, because we are more or less used to visit Vaishnava temples. And of course, yeah, Kalabhairava temple, unfortunately, we could not make it to Kalabhairava, but I think, yeah. So Mamleshwar is something what we visited. So I think, Shiva's, Lord Shiva's temples are in a different vibe altogether. Right. So, versus how Vaishnava Kshetras are in a different vibe. And, we were very, unfortunately, none of us could make it, but I think everybody was talking about the Bhasma Harati, which happens in Mahakaleshwar, early morning around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. I think, unfortunately, we missed that. We could not make it due to the tight schedule. I think, that's a great experience, definitely being in Ujjaini and visiting all these temples.
Yes, Prabhu. So here in Prabhupada's, in his purport, he's saying Shiva is also called Ashutosha. Ashutosha means somebody very easy to please. He's always satisfied, and therefore he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. So here, as Dasraj Prabhu explained, thank you so much, Dasraj Prabhu, we have seen three kinds of Shivas there. One is Mahakaleshwar, where he's worshipped with ashes, with Bhasmam. Then Omkareshwar temple is like normal other any Shiva temple, where we see a lot of worship with Abhishekam with everything like milk and everything, But when it comes to Kalabhairava temple, that is first time I heard of this temple, and I was very surprised. Here, Lord Shiva is worshipped with liquor. See, so my initial thought when I heard of this, because as you go close to the temple, you will see what you call it, all around the temple premises, you'll see only liquor shops, because that's where people are buying what is needed to worship him, and then the Abhishek, they do the Abhishek with it, and so on and so forth. Then my initial thought was like, somewhere somebody understood it wrong, and that wrong tradition is being continued here. And I felt a little sad and bad that, this is how it has come down to, the worship has come down to. Until I realized, when once we sat in what do you call it, Krishna, Balaram, and what ashram is it? Sandeep Muni ashram. Then here we had a devotee from Ujjain temple explain us what that means really. So Shiva is merciful to everyone, even somebody who is worshipping, ready to worship him with something. Shiva is merciful. Even if somebody is worshipping him with ash, Shiva is merciful. Even if he's merciful to everybody. That's why you will see him. He what do you call? He will deliver even pisachas, bhutas, anybody and everybody. That's the mercy of Shiva. Why am I emphasizing so much of mercy of Shiva is the next few top slokas is all about the mercy he has shown on Daksha. Basically, even though Daksha has shown so much of envy, then Shiva has shown the mercy, and that mercy is in the form of punishment. Right? Let's see. Let's get on to the next shloka. Hare Krishna, the third shloka. Lord Shiva continued, since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. So here Shiva is now trying to, show his mercy on all the people that have been punished for their offenses. Let's see. Then the fourth shloka, the demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples, and if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpeas flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. So here, with the help, see again, the purpose of demigods is defined in these shlokas. So each demigod, how they're responsible for different activities that are happening in our human body. So when we pray Lord Krishna, then all the demigods are happy to serve the Vaishnavas. Those are the examples we're seeing here. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing. Otherwise, he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus, his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating, since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him of showing his teeth. In other words, it was not appropriate for him to have teeth, for he had used them against Lord Shiva. See, Prabhuji and Mataji's in Prabhupada's purport is clearly showing how we can make mistakes that can displease our that can be become punishable offenses, and those are the things we see as problems in our materialistic bodily life, basically. So here, because he laughed at Shiva when somebody else is insulting Shiva, the teeth became unusable after that, and he has to depend on only flour. And we see these kind of things happening in our lives. We see these kind of things happening to other people in their lives, and we never understand why it happened. But these are the reasons why these things are, this kind of support is lost from demigods, and that support can come back only with the mercy of Lord Shiva. Okay, then shloka number 5. You want to read the shloka, Emma? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bahubhyam ashvino pushno hastabhyam kritaba bahavaha bhavantva adhvaryavaschanye bastas smashurur bhrugur bhavet. Translation: those who have had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashwini Kumara, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priests will also have to act in that manner. As for Bhrugu, he will have the beard from the goat's head.
Hare Krishna. Again, these are all the different remedies that Lord Shiva is giving for all the people that went through the suffering. Or he's helping them, or he's giving them a benediction that, you know, with these things you can fulfill your activities with the help of other demigods. Hare Krishna. Will somebody help me read through the purport?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead.
Praveen Prabhu. Read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Purport. Bhrigu Muni, a great sporter of this Daksha, was awarded the beard of the goat's head, which was substitute for the head of Daksha. It appears from the exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientific theory that the brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. The brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind, and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. It will be found in the verse ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was as intelligent as he had previously been.
Hare Krishna. Let's pause here for a minute. Hare Krishna. Here in the purport, Prabhupada is saying very clearly, see, Bhrigumuni had the beard, that's okay, and Daksha was awarded the goat's head, which was substituted for head of Daksha. Okay. It appears from exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientific theory that brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. Hare Krishna. See, so we think all our thought process is coming from brain. Now here, Daksha's head has been replaced by a goat's head, but Daksha still has all his thought process, all his intelligence as it is. So brain is just a medium of processing the thoughts, but not the powerhouse or the storehouse of thoughts. You see what it is, Prabhu? So you hear people doing heart transplant. So what should happen? The soul should get transferred. It's not happening. But because when the person wakes up with somebody else's heart, he's still having his own soul and thought process. Same thing is applying even for brain. So brain transplantation has happened, but the thought process stayed within it. Isn't it very interesting, Prabhu? So this is what we always discuss. The soul, along with its what do you call sukshma, the subtle body which consists of the thought process, manasu, buddhi, ahankara, the intelligence and ego is carried with along with atma of the soul. So the brain is just a in medium, just like a hand, leg, or anything, which is translating all those thought process irrespective of whose brain it is. Right? This is not very scientifically advanced thing to think on. So the brain substance of Daksha and that of goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. Again, here there's a wonderful statement. I got myself caught on this statement, that particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. Consciousness is always individual. Again, what is consciousness? That's a big topic of discussion in itself. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind, and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. This is what we always talk about as the subtle elements that are carried with the soul. It will be found in the verses ahead that Daksha's head was replaced by goat's head. He was as intelligent as he was previously been. Hare Krishna. Any questions on this so far, Prabhus and Matajis? Hare Krishna. Okay. So again, what makes consciousness individual? What does it mean really? How does consciousness be? If consciousness is very individual, why do we think consciousness will grow when you are in association? Anybody wants to answer anything on that? Any thoughts on that? Here, Prabhupada is clearly saying consciousness is very individualist. Yes, Praveen Prabhu.
Prabhuji, so in association, right? Sometime our mind is not into that direction. Okay, when we seeing other person, okay, and this positive vibration comes definitely, and it will make some difference in our consciousness.
Okay.
Yeah, so see, it totally depends upon the association, right? If we have bad association, definitely we'll follow whatever they are doing. Okay, when we are in the right consciousness, right association, so it will allow us to think in that way.
It will help us grow our own consciousness, basically.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So the real intelligence, mind and consciousness are part of a particular soul. It will be found in future verses that Daksha's head was replaced by goat's head, and he was as intelligent as he was previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. Hare Krishna. Here, this particular purport actually has taught about these two things, basically. The brain is just is a processor or a medium through which intelligence is expressed or intelligence is processed, but and the soul is the consciousness which is very specific to the soul. Okay, the whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify that consciousness. It does not matter what kind of brain one has, because it simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna. his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving his present material body. So here, this particular purport should explain us, or the story of Daksha should explain us how the consciousness works independent of body, and that understanding should only make anybody more conscious about his consciousness and less conscious about his body, more conscious about his soul and the activities that soul carries along with to the next body, right? Hare Krishna. Any questions on this, or shall we go further? Next slok also reading. Yes, 6 slok. We read them.
Maitreya uvacha tada sarvani bhutani shrutva midushtamoditam paritushtamabhistata sadhu sadhvi iti atha bruvan. Translation. The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the benedictors."
Hare Krishna. Lord Maitreya continued, said, "My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the benedictors." Lord Shiva said, "I haven't punished them as an enemy. I never looked at Daksha as enemy. I only punished him to fix his attitude or his anarthas, and by separating his head, and now he's fixing it back by putting a goat's head, that the Daksha life of Daksha soul's journey continues after that. And by hearing that, all his disciples felt very happy, very satisfied with Lord Shiva. In this verse, Lord Shiva is described as Mudushtama, Midushtama, the best of the benedictors. He is also known as Ashutosha, which indicates that he is very quickly satisfied and very quickly angered. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that less intelligent persons go to the demigods for material benedictions. In this connection, people generally go to Lord Shiva, and because he is always quickly satisfied and gives benedictions to his devotees without consideration, he is also called, he is called Midushtama, or the best of the benedictors. Materialist persons are always anxious to get material profit, but they are not serious about spiritual profit. Hare Krishna. This is again another serious purport by Srila Prabhupada. We always see people worshipping Shiva actually becoming more rich and rich, and people worshipping Vishnu are not becoming so rich and but are having a lot more problems actually, right? Have you seen that anytime, anywhere, Prabhuji's, Mataji's? And also, we keep hearing, why is that all the rich people only go to ISKCON and not all the rich people go? I mean, most of ISKCON devotees are very rich and so on and so forth. And if you observe carefully, most of the people that are coming into ISKCON are actually fed up with that materialistic happiness. Most people that are going to Lord Shiva are actually wanting to grow to a point in higher materialistic benefits or materialistic happiness, basically. So at some point, you get to that, you get to a point where the materialistic, materialistic acquisitions and materialistic possessions are not giving you the happiness that you're looking for. And that is when you actually come towards Lord Vishnu or Krishna, and then you start shedding out all those things and become simple. That's where you started your life probably, but now you have come as a matured person, or as a person who has understood the basic need of human life. You go back to the Godhead. And that happens, and that's like a cycle basically. And that's what here Srila Prabhupada is referring to. Most people, and Shiva is satisfied so easily. And that's the reason why most people go to Shiva for a lot of these benefits. And at some point, they come back into, they become a Vaishnava. Sometimes, of course, it so happens that Lord Shiva becomes the best benedictor in spiritual life. It is also said, once a poor Brahmana worshipped Lord Shiva for benediction, and Lord Shiva advised the devotee to go to Sanatana Goswami. The devotee went to Sanatana Goswami and informed him that Lord Shiva has advised him to seek out the best benediction from him. Then Sanatana, from him, Sanatana Goswami had a touchstone with him, which he kept with the garbage. On the request of the poor Brahmana, Sanatana Goswami gave him the touchstone. And the Brahmana was very happy to have it. He now could get as much gold he had desired simply by touching the touchstone to iron. But after he left Sanatana, he thought, if the touchstone is the best benediction, why did Sanatana Goswami kept it with the garbage? He therefore returned and asked Sanatana Goswami, sir, if this is the best benediction, why did you keep it in the garbage? Sanatana Goswami then informed him, actually, this is not the best benediction, but are you prepared to take the best benediction from me? Hare Krishna. Here, you can see clearly the difference between a Vaishnava and a Shiva devotee. A Shiva devotee turns to Vaishnava or becomes a Vaishnava only after he is satisfied with his materialistic possessions. The Brahmana said, yes, sir, Lord Shiva has sent me to you for the best benediction. Then Sanatana Goswami asked him to throw the touchstone in the water nearby and then come back. The poor Brahmana did so. And when he returned, Sanatana Goswami initiated him with Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, by benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna, and he was initiated in Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Matajis. You can clearly see how the people worshipping Shiva are thinking, and people worshipping Vishnu or Vaishnavas or Vaishnava Brahmins are thinking. Here, Sanatana Goswami took a man who is a Shiva devotee, or Shiva sent his best disciples to Mahavishnu devotee and Krishna devotee, and fulfilled the Brahmana's wish of becoming rich, and also fulfilled the wish that the Brahmana should be doing as a human being to what you call it, renounce that those riches and look for something lot more useful in life, or the best thing in life. And then he becomes, for Sanatana Goswami gives him the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and thus he becomes a Vaishnava and gets the best benediction from a Vaishnava soul. And that's what association helps, and that's what Lord Shiva helps you to put you to the best association. Hare Krishna. Any questions on this so far? So we're discussing about 3-4 different topics here, right? The first we talked about how the soul and the consciousness are connected, and how the soul and consciousness are disconnected from the body. Irrespective of what the body is, then the soul continues to go with its consciousness, and how that consciousness can be improved, or how that consciousness can be purified by with the help of Lord Shiva, who puts you to the best Vaishnava. That's what this example is all about. Hare Krishna. Let's go to the next sloka, Prabhuji and Matajis.
Yes, Prabhuji.
7th. Therefore, Bhrigu, the chief of the great sages, invited Lord Shiva to come to the sacrificial arena. Thus, the demigods, accompanied by the sages, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, all went to the place where the great sacrifice was being performed. The whole sacrifice arranged by King Daksha has been disturbed by Lord Shiva. Therefore, all the demigods present there, along with Lord Brahma and the great sages, specifically requested Lord Shiva to come and revive the sacrificial fire. There is a common phrase, Sivahena Yajna. Shiva, any sacrifice without the presence of Lord Shiva is baffled. Lord Vishnu, the Igneshwara, the Supreme Personality in the matter of sacrifice, yet in each yajna, it is necessary for all demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva to be present. Hare Krishna. So this is what is again, you're doing the yajna in association and in association of the best Vaishnavas. Shiva is the best Vaishnava and he is needed. Though there is a Igneshwara, though you have an altar and you have everything for a ritual, and if you don't have the Vaishnavas along with you, it is of not really great use is what Prabhupada is referring to here. Right? That's how I understood reading this purport. Though soul consciousness is individualistic, but you need that particular association of Vaishnavas for performing your ritualistic activities or the activities that you are performing for your own purification. Right? The soul consciousness and purification. These are important and interesting words, basically. How does soul consciousness purification happens in association? What is soul consciousness purification really means? Hare Krishna, anybody wants to explain me a little bit, because I'm always struggling on this kind of topics. Anybody wants to talk a little bit about it? I had the same question I asked Praveen Prabhu, right, earlier. How does association help soul consciousness? And now here it goes to one more step. How does that association help soul consciousness to purify, to reach its final goal? Right? The final goal of going back to the Godhead.
Hare Krishna.
Santoshaditya Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, it is in anywhere, association is the matters. Association reminds us of the important goal, right?
Okay.
Even if I am deviating my path, the other person who is, they pull us back to the path. You are going in the wrong path. You should not be attached to these things. You should be chanting all these things. So there will be a common goal in the association. Even one goes astray, the other pulls back to the normal position.
Okay. How does the pulling back happens, Prabhu?
And encouraging each other.
Encouraging.
What I think.
Okay. Good, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody else? Raghunandan Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
I think
Nice
Prabhuji
picture.
cannot be correct, but,
a nice picture, you with Maharaj there. Wonderful. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, the question was about how do we develop soul consciousness and then eventually attain the supreme goal, you asked, Prabhuji. I think this happens with any association, Prabhuji, that we identify so much with our body because we are with mostly bodily conscious people, or even for that matter, before coming to Krishna consciousness, we hardly know there is a soul, Prabhuji. So all we knew was the body and its enjoyment, right, Prabhuji? That's where the primary goals were, going to the mall or watching a picture, because we were with people like that. And how we are developing soul consciousness after coming in connection with our satsang, especially our Lilananda Prabhuji, is that Prabhuji, like Santoshaditya Prabhu told, it looks like it is the sadhu sangha is like paracetamol, Prabhuji, like Prabhupada.
Sadhu sangha is like paracetamol. Okay, that's a
yes.
nice.
We don't understand the chemical composition or how it is made, what is inside, but automatically we are the live examples, Prabhuji. Many of us, we were nowhere, just office going people, and had no understanding. but suddenly we have 10 Karyakartas who are doing the big satsangs. So I don't think we really understood the composition, how the paracetamol is made, what is the stuff inside.
Okay.
But this flock is, many things are internally happening.
Okay. Okay.
And Keshav Maharaj also gives a very nice example this way, that we many times think that nothing is happening, it's so dry in Krishna consciousness. But he gave one example, like stop chanting for one day.
Yeah.
Can we do that, Prabhuji? We cannot actually.
Yeah.
That itself is a sign of growth, Prabhuji. So I think we are slowly heading towards the soul consciousness and achieving that's my understanding, Prabhuji.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. So in this Ujjain Yatra, a couple of things happened to me. Like I thought I'll share those things with you, and you might correct me if my understanding on these things are right or wrong. So we were in the bus and we were discussing about a topic, and Anuradha Mataji was guiding us in the discussion. Basically, it's all about how do Maharajas name gives an initiation name, right? Then Mataji used one word clearly. So it is based on communication at Paramatma level that inspires. So that actually pondered me a lot on this on my thought process. I'll share a couple of small examples or things that happened, and then we'll see. See again, like that made me put me back into thinking more on analytical analysis of what that Paramatma communication means. And then this, when I'm reading this topic, it brought back me all those memories basically. So the body is made of 24 elements at materialistic level. And your life is that, really. Your life defines on how these 24 elements are working. That's what a life for any human being is, basically. How those 24 elements are thinking, how those 24 elements are enjoying, how those 24 elements are performing, how they're growing. That's what defines what you are. And then once you go a little beyond that, you have your Atma consciousness. If you can look at that Atma consciousness, then you have your Atma. And if you go beyond that, you have your Paramatma, right? So Atma is personal, Jivatma is personal. So there's not much growth is there in that. And then you have Paramatma, which is infinite, which is, but you have an element of Paramatma. But that element of Paramatma grows, or I wouldn't use the word grows, influences these 24 elements. Who influences these 24 elements? There's a clear bidirectional influence between Atma and these 24 elements, right? There's a clear bidirectional element, this thing with the Atma and these 24 elements. But, so that is life. If you put your life, if you call your life that is being carried by these 24 elements as a constant number, a constant element, that is being influenced by two elements inside your body, which is Paramatma and Atma. So the sum of these two things is influencing your life. The smaller you can make the Atma influence on your 24 elements, the larger will be the Paramatma element that is actually influencing your life. And the dimension in which Paramatma element grows is 0 to infinity. Because the Paramatma element can speak to another pure soul, which is in Paramatma consciousness. The other soul in front of you is not in Paramatma consciousness. Your Paramatma is not going to communicate. That is what association is all about. Once you come in association with a great soul, then the Paramatma elements can communicate, and that can influence your life. And the magnitude in which that influence can go is 0 to infinity. And now, if you look at that, if one element is 0 to infinity, then the Atma, the influence of Atma on these 24 elements is very minimal, or negligible, or minus infinity, basically, right? If we can live in a state like that, that's what all Maharajas are. That's what I felt, that's what all Maharajas are. In last 3-4 months, I met 3 different Maharajas, right? The first one is Radhanasma Maharaj, when he was in India for like very little bit of brief period. I went to Mumbai to see him. My only goal was to get an eye glance with him, but that didn't happen. But suddenly, all of a sudden, we were all in the prayer, we were doing the Mangala Harti, and everybody was standing. I was also standing. And suddenly, then the Tulsi Harti, they were bringing Tulsi pots. Suddenly, people were turning back. Because I didn't realize there's a Tulsi Mata pot behind my back. And I turned back, and I'm the first one right in front of the Tulsi. And there are like 3-4 pockets of these groups that are worshipping Tulsi. And so there are about 6 or 7 Tulsi pots in the big hall. And Maharaj chose to come to our group. So I was standing like, 1.5 feet away from Maharaj. Everybody around me were just pulled out their cell phones and trying to get the best selfie with his view and he with both the views, basically. So my thought process there was only one thing I was thinking, basically. Can I breathe a little bit of the air that's coming out of his body? That's all my thought process was. All I want to do is breathe a little bit of air that's coming out of his body so that I'm in association with Maharaj, basically. Then after that, we had the center opening, Lokanath Maharaj came. And then again, I was driving Lokanath Maharaj. And Maharaj is like another 10-15 inches away from me because he's in the passenger seat, I'm in the driving seat. And Lokanath Maharaj has the habit of, patting on shoulders. So I was all hoping only for that. If I can get Maharaj pat on my shoulder, I think I'm in a great association. So the one thing that was the first element was little bit not physical. The second one was more physical now. I'm looking for more a physical association. Then we went to Jaini, Prem Bhakt Swami Maharaj. We met him. So I was hoping Maharaj is very close to us. And Prem Bhakt Swami Maharaj, actually, when he was here in Gachibowli, he was on my birthday and he put a garland on me. So that was again another physical point. But when I heard this, Anuradha Mataji is saying about it's the Paramatma connection that makes Maharaj speak the way he speaks with you. So how much of the Paramatma in you is awakened based on that, the association happens. So when Maharaj was speaking, all I was trying to do is shut down the influence of Atma on my thought process. Shut down the influence of Atma on the 24 elements. I just want to let the Paramatma communicate with the Paramatma in Maharaj. Because when you are sitting in front of Maharaj, there is nothing called the soul influenced person there. The person sitting there is totally surrendered to let Paramatma guide, speak, behave, everything that all his 24 elements are just surrendered, are listening to, along with Atma. The consciousness is in such a state that he's just the Paramatma aspect of God is present there, basically. So that's what I felt opening up for association, being ready for that association. That's what these shlokas made me think more on this. The whole sacrifice arrangement by King Daksha has been disturbed by Lord Shiva. Therefore, all the demigods present there, along with Lord Brahma and great sages, especially required Lord Shiva to come and revive the sacrifice fire. There is a common phrase, Shiva Hina Yajna. Any sacrifice without the presence of Lord Shiva is baffled. Lord Vishnu is Igneshwara, the supreme personality in the matter of sacrifice. Yet each yajna, it is necessary for all demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva to be present. So that's the beauty of presence of senior Vaishnavas, because they have surrendered everything for that Igneshwara. That person is very important in our lives for our yajna or our consciousness growth or our journey, in our journey of attaining that end goal. Those are some of the thoughts I had when I was reading this. I thought I'll share with you, and then we'll move on to next shloka. Right? Are we reading this? No. After everything was executed exactly as directed by Lord Shiva, Daksha's body was joined to the head of animal meant to be killed in the sacrifice. This time, all the demigods and great sages were very careful not to irritate Lord Shiva. Therefore, whatever he asked was done. It is specifically said here that Daksha's body was joined to the head of an animal, a goat. If you look at the same Yajna, if you look at 2-3 chapters ago, that's where the Yajna started, and the environment is totally different. The consciousness with which these demigods are behaving is totally different. The person who is conducting the Yajna, Daksha's consciousness is totally different. The element of envy in one person, or the person who is leading the Yajna, and how that translated into different demigods misbehaving with a senior Vaishnava like Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva. Here, now demigods and are all very alert in their own behavior and to make sure that they are pleasing this Vaishnava who is responsible, without whose presence the Yajna cannot be performed. Right? Next. Are you reading this?
9.
Okay, this is ninth shloka. Okay, read this.
Hare Krishna. Sandhiyamane shirasi daksho rudrabhivikshitah sadhya sukta ivotastho dadrishe chagrato mridam. Translation: when the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness, and as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him.
Hare Krishna. So now Daksha, the first Daksha and this is second Daksha. You will see the starking difference between the two Dakshas. Here, when the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness, and he was awake. As he was awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. The example given here, Daksha got up as he was awakened from deep sleep. Then in Sanskrit, it is called Supta. Sleeping.
Supta
Ivotastha. The meaning is that after a man awakens from sleep, he immediately remembers all the duties which he must execute. Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead, but by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to the body, Daksha came back to the consciousness again. This indicates that consciousness is also individual. Daksha actually took another body when he took the head of a goat, but because his consciousness is individual, his consciousness remained the same, although his bodily condition changed. Thus, bodily construction has nothing to do with the development of consciousness. Consciousness is carried with the transmigration of the soul. There are many instances in Vedic history, such as the case of Maharaj Bharata. Hare Krishna. We all know that Bharata Maharaj story, where he left his body along with that consciousness, and though he took up a body of a deer, but he still remembers the whole life of his previous past. So that's a state of purity of the consciousness in which that soul was traveling, that let him remember all his previous lives. Basically, again here, though because of his consciousness, though he was in a different animal body, he could remember everything. That's the example Prabhupada is giving here, that to again emphasize the fact that consciousness is individual centric, and it's soul centric and not the body centric. Okay. After quitting his body as a king, Maharaj Bharata was transferred into the body of a deer, but he retained the same consciousness. He knew that although formerly he was a king Bharata, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. In spite of his having a body of deer, however, his consciousness was as good as it was in the body of King Bharata. The arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, again, the arrangement of the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in the next life, he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even he is offered a different type of body. So this is a statement that has to give courage and become everybody more fearless of what they are doing. It is that getting into, once you turn your consciousness, once you turn your bodily consciousness into soul consciousness, and that soul consciousness into a Paramatmik or Krishna consciousness, then there is no doubt, it doesn't matter what body you're taking, because the journey of soul and the consciousness is independent of the body, independent of the materialistic body. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the next shloka. Any questions so far, Prabhuji Mataji? The 10th shloka. At the time when Daksha saw Lord Shiva, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. Now, this is a different Daksha. The envy aspect is totally gone. Probably he did not even realize that he has a goat head on him, because he's still at a consciousness level. He's recovered all his consciousness, but without one feature, that is the envy aspect is totally eliminated of his consciousness. Here is an example of why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotional reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed. King Daksha was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, and yet by seeing him with little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. This is the cleansing activity also happens because of the mercy of Shiva, mercy of the Vaishnava, mercy of the God himself. All we have to do is show little love and little surrender. That's what we have seen. All the devotees in Ujjain, different walks of life, devotees coming from different walks of life, devotees with different lifestyles. But the moment they start showing little bit of love, little bit of surrender to Lord Krishna, Mahavishnu's disciple, Lord Shiva, the Vaishnava, the pure Vaishnava, then he himself can help you cleanse all this immediately. In the rainy season, the reservoirs of water become dirty and muddy, but as soon as the autumn rain comes, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. Similarly, although Daksha's heart was impure because of his having some slandered Lord Shiva, for which he was severely punished, Daksha now came to consciousness, and just by seeing Lord Shiva with veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. Hare Krishna. Let's go to the next shloka. Reading this. King Daksha wanted to offer prayers to Lord Shiva, but as he remembered the ill-fated death of his daughter Sati, his eyes filled with tears, and in bereavement, his voice choked up, and he could not say anything. So now Daksha is transformed into a different kind of personality, or the consciousness has been purified by the help of Lord Shiva, and now he wanted to speak, but then suddenly he remembered the death of his daughter, and he started feeling the pain of it. At this time, King Daksha, afflicted by love and affection, was very much awakened to his real senses. With great endeavor, he pacified his mind, checked his feelings, and with pure consciousness began to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. So the next three shlokas is how he's getting prepared to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Krishna will start reading these three also. If anybody wants to help read this translation and purport?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prasad Prabhu. Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Shall I read the translation,
Yes,
Prabhu?
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. King Daksha said, "My dear Lord, I committed a great offense against you. But you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a great favor by punishing me. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified Brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am who am engaged in performing sacrifices.
Hare Krishna. So here Daksha is saying, my dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me great favor by punishing me. So in real life, God's punishment means withdrawing his mercy. God's mercy means actually punishing us for our crimes. See, that's how beautiful it is. So here, what was the punishment that Shiva gave to, or how did Shiva show his mercy on Daksha by giving what punishment?
He killed him.
What mercy? Sorry?
He removed his head.
Yes, that is
He
the
gave the
mercy.
goats.
Bringing
That's a
him
mercy,
back to
actually.
life
It's
is not
punishment.
considered mercy.
Yeah.
Bringing him back to life is not mercy. The mercy is actually killing him.
Killing,
Right?
killing.
The mercy is, the kindness is still showing mercy. And that mercy is killing him. The
Killing.
mercy is come in the form of a punishment.
Punishment.
You have done me a great favor by punishing me. Even Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified Brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifices? Here, Daksha is doing Brahmanic activities of performing sacrifices and are going through austerity. And such a person, even if he has, his consciousness is not very pure, his consciousness is not clear, Lord decides to show his mercy rather than withdrawing him. Lord still wants to show his mercy and fix his attitude, fix him as if a father is doing it to a son. And in the process, Daksha was punished. And Daksha, now when he realized, he's so merciful, he's so thankful for the mercy that Lord has shown by separating his head, right? Now that's what the transformation, so senior Vaishnavas can give to us basically. Although Daksha felt defeated, he knew that his punishment was simply the great mercy of Lord Shiva. He remembered that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are never neglectful of Brahmanas, even though Brahmanas are sometimes unqualified. According to Vedic civilization, a descendant of a Brahmana family should never be heavily punished. This was exemplified in Arjuna's treatment of Aswadhama. Aswadhama was the son of great Brahmana, Dronacharya, and in spite of his having committed great offense of killing all the sleeping sons of Pandava, for which he was condemned even by Lord Krishna, Arjuna excused him by not killing him because he happens to be son of a Brahmana. Ashwadhama goes and kills all the Upapandavas, and for which even Duryodhana did not like it. Even he thought Duryodhana will praise him. Duryodhana will make Duryodhana happy. Even Duryodhana was not happy with the act he has done. Nobody is happy, even including Krishna. Even Krishna condemned him. But Draupadi said, let's forgive him. He's son of your Guru. He's son of your Guru Patni. I can understand the pain they will go through. Please forgive him. And that's what our Vedic culture is saying. Not punish Brahmana completely, even for the big mistakes he has done. Arjuna even condemned by Lord Krishna, Arjuna excused him by not killing him because he happened to be son of a Brahmana. The word Brahma Bandhu used here is significant. In the shloka, we see the word Brahma Bandhu used, which means is significant. Brahma Bandhu means a person who is born of a Brahmana father, but whose activities are not up to the standard of Brahmana. Such a person is not a Brahmana, but just a Brahma Bandhu. Daksha proved himself to be a Brahma Bandhu. He was born of great Brahmana father, Lord Brahma himself. So he's just a friend, he's just a relative of Brahma, but he has failed himself as a Brahmana. Is the repentance that Daksha is going through. He was not Father Lord Brahma, but his treatment of Lord Shiva was not exactly Brahmanical. Therefore, he admitted he was not a perfect Brahmana. Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, however, are affectionate even to an imperfect Brahmana. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one he does his enemy, rather he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses so that he would know that he had done wrong. Daksha could understand this and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen Brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice as it is the duty of Brahmanas, and thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. Hare Krishna. We'll see the next sloka where he starts his prayers. Right? See the sloka. Recite the sloka more.
Vidyatapo vratadharam muktahasma vipran brahmatma tattvamavitum prathamam tvam ashrat tad brahmanan paramas sarva vipatsupashi palapashun iva vibhu pragrahita dandaha. Translation. My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the Brahmanas in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self-realization. As protector of the Brahmanas, you always protect the regulative principles they follow. Just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows.
Hare Krishna. Again, prayers started here. My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the Brahmanas in pursuing education and austerities, vows, and self-realization. Here is clearly explaining the rules and responsibilities of a Brahmana. That's what Brahmanas are supposed to be doing. Take care of the other varnas towards God, basically. Right? As protector of the Brahmanas, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Protection to the cows is two things, basically, right? Is to keep the cows in their right course. That's the protection he's giving. In what Shiva is doing is to protect all of us in the right way that we protect ourselves from Maya. Right? So that's what here his prayers are starting with, basically. Let's see. Can anybody help read the purport? Hare Krishna.
No. Purport. Translation and purport to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The specific function of human being is in society, irrespective of social status, is to practice control of the mind and the senses by observing the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic Shastras. Lord Shiva is called Pashupati because he protects the living entities in their developed consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashrama. The word Pasu refers to the animal as well as the human entity. It is stated here the Lord Shiva is always interested in protecting the animal and the animalistic living entities who are very advanced in spiritual sense. It is also stated that, do you want me to hold, Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. Just let's hold it. The specific function of human being in society, irrespective of his social status, is to practice control of mind and senses by observing regulative principles enjoyed in Vedic Shastras. Lord Shiva is called Supati because he protects the living entities in their development consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashrama. The word Pasu refers to the animal as well as to the human entity. It is stated here, Lord Shiva is always interested in protecting the animals and animalistic living entities. That's important, right? Who are not very advanced in spiritual sense. It's Lord Shiva who helps us, give us the what materialistic thing we want, and then put us in the spiritual path. It is also stated that the Brahmanas are produced from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. We should always remember Lord Shiva as being addressed as the representative of Supreme Lord Vishnu. In Vedic literature, it is described that Brahmanas are born from the mouth of the universal of Vishnu. The Kshatriyas are from his arms, and Vaishyas are from his abdomen or waist, and Sudras from his legs. In the formation of a body, The head is principal factor. The Brahmanas are born from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to accept charity for the worship of Vishnu and to spread the Vedic knowledge. Lord Shiva is known as Pasupati, the protector of Brahmanas and other living entities. He protects them from attacks of non-Brahmanas and uncultured persons who are against the self-realized process. Hare Krishna. Here again, Prabhupada explains the purpose of the Brahmanic lifestyle, or everybody who has to become a Brahmin, and their purpose is to, in order to accept charity for worship of Vishnu and to spread Vedic knowledge. That's all they have to do, Brahmanas. They have to, they came out of the mouth of the God, and they came from the mouth of the God for two purposes. One is they have to accept charity because they're not working, but they're living on Piksha and to spread the Vedic knowledge. Hare Krishna. The second paragraph. Kincha Prabhu, you want to kind of read or somebody else?
I'll read, Prabhu.
Yes.
I think nobody has come forward. Another feature of this word is that persons who are simply attached to the ritualistic portion of the Vedas and do not understand the situation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not any more advanced than animals. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed that even though one performs the rituals of the Vedas, if he does not develop a sense of Krishna consciousness, then all his labor in performing Vedic rituals is considered to be simply waste of time. Lord Shiva aim in destroying the Daksha Yagna was to punish Daksha, because by neglecting him, Lord Shiva, Daksha was committing a great offense. Lord Shiva's punishment was just like that of the coward boy who keeps a stick to frighten his animals. It is commonly said that that to give protection to the animals, a stick is needed because animals cannot reason and argue. Their reasoning and argument is argumentum ad baculum. Unless there is a rod, they do not obey. Force is required for the animalistic class of men, whereas those who are advanced are convinced by reason, arguments, and scriptural authority. Persons who are simply attached to the Vedic rituals without further advancement of devotional service or Krishna consciousness are almost like animals, and Lord Shiva in charge of giving them protection and sometimes punish them as punished Daksha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Here again, further Prabhupada talks about the way how Lord Shiva helps, basically. So how he helps his devotees, how he helps by protecting them, by the protection is by correcting them, basically, right? Hare Krishna. We'll go to the next shloka, 15th shloka. I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in open assembly. Although you did not take them into account, I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. Hare Krishna. Here, Daksha is saying, if you had not punished me, I would have spent time in hell. So by punishing me, you let my karma, you let me suffer my karma, basically. You took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding the punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my own words. He understands, see, from the point of envy, from the point of where he wants to take the upper hand, he's come to a point where he's saying, I do not have even the qualification to please you. I do not have, but you are so merciful that you can be pleased by your own mercy. We can be pleased by your own mercy and treat me as if you are pleased by me, because I cannot please you by my words. Krishna, let's see Prabhupada's purport on this. As usual, a devotee is in adverse condition of life, accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Actually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment, neutralized the offense. King Daksha realized this and, feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. Sometimes a father punishes his child, and when the child is grown up and comes to his senses, he understands that his father's punishment was not actually punishment by mercy. His punishment was not actually punishment by mercy. Similarly, Daksha appreciated that the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was manifestation of Lord Shiva's mercy. That is the symptom of a person making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. So what is the symptom? We should understand that actual punishment is similarly. Daksha appreciated the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was manifestation of Shiva's mercy. That is the symptom of a person making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. It is said that a devotee in Krishna consciousness never takes any miserable condition of life to be condemned by Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepts the miserable condition to be the grace of God. He thinks, I would have been punished or put into more dangerous condition of life due to my past misdeeds, but the Lord has protected me. Thus I have received only little punishment as token of execution of law of karma. Thinking of his grace in that way, a devotee always surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more and more seriously and is not disturbed by such so-called punishment. The death punishment that Lord Shiva gave to Daksha itself is seen as a small punishment by the mercy of Lord, that he is not thrown into hellish planets perpetually, but has been saved by mercy of the Lord by bringing him back to life and to correct his mistake and understand his position, understand Lord's position, and work as a Brahmana to complete the sacrifice to benefit all the people in his kingdom. So 16, the great says Maitreya said, thus being pardoned by Lord Shiva, King Daksha, with the permission of Lord Brahma, again began the performance of Yajna, along with great learned sages and the priests and others. Hare Krishna. From this topic onwards, from 16th and onwards, so Giras Prabhu will continue tomorrow. So I'm going to stop here as planning only for 15 shlokas. So if there are any questions, please we'll discuss for a few more minutes. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Lilananda Prabhu, Dandat Pranam Prabhu. Sorry, I didn't see, I just saw you.
Prabhuji, Dandat from Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, your voice froze up, Prabhu. Your video froze up. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I think we lost your connection. We are back, Prabhu.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, now we can.
Yeah, Prabhuji, there are several points to discuss. So can you give us say the top 1 or 2, 3 takeaways that we can learn today? Perhaps remember.
Sorry, Hare Krishna. So the things that I thought mostly to the takeaways is if we look at it from analytical point of view, the distinguish between the subtle body elements that travel with soul are independent of the body. So even your brain gets transplanted, your thought process, your desires, all the things are left with your soul, and the soul is still part of your body. So that's the consciousness with which the soul is still with your body and not with your brain, and brain has got nothing to do with it, is the first one. And the second one is, again, further it built on that consciousness, how to purify that consciousness that happens only in presence of pure devotees. by respecting them in the proper way, by understanding our own position with respect to them, and understanding their position with respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and understanding how we should take their help to reach that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhu, this is an opportunity we have on regular basis. Like, we have, Rajesham Prabhu, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, all these people are walking encyclopedias of surrender and devotion and Shastra knowledge. That association should help us purify. That association should help us purify. And that purification happens. And that purification happens when we can surrender like Daksha after the punishment, the second Daksha basically. When we surrender, and that surrender means understanding the soul consciousness, understanding the God consciousness basically, and understanding the power of God consciousness that we have, and the power of soul consciousness or Atma consciousness that Maya can take control over. This is what my realization from this 10-15 shlokas. I don't know if I put anything in the wrong words basically.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Just wanted to take some takeaways. Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other comments, questions, Prabhuji, Mataji? If I spoke anything wrong, please forgive me. So I just try to put my reflections on those 13-14 shlokas basically.
One small comment, Prabhuji, if
Yes,
time.
Yes, Prabhu.
About this analogy about the mind, Prabhuji, this is something new, which I think many of us never heard. That about our experiences, our consciousness, we mostly combine that with mind, our brain.
Right.
We think that all of them are stored in the brain.
Right.
But this is something very new in today's class, that they are actually attached to the soul, but not to the brain.
Right.
That was something very nice, and we never knew. I never knew, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Brain is still part of materialistic meat, basically. It's part of the materialistic sack, if you want to call it that way.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions, Prabhuji, Mataji?
నో ప్రభుజీ. ప్రభుజీ, నేను తెలుగులో చెప్తాను.
చెప్పండి అమ్మా.
సాధారణంగా ఇవన్నీ మనం చదువుకుంటూనే వెళ్ళాము, అర్థం చేసుకుంటూనే వెళ్ళాము, అండర్లైన్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళాము, నోట్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళాము. కానీ మళ్ళీ వింటున్నప్పుడు మళ్ళీ అరే ఈ పాయింట్ మిస్ అయ్యామా అన్నట్టు ఉంటుంది ప్రభుజీ. ఎందుకు అలా ఉంటుందో నాకు అర్థం అవటం లేదు అసలు. అంటే అసోసియేషన్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడే మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి మెరుస్తున్నట్టు ఉంటుంది, మళ్ళీ మామూలుగా అయిపోతున్నాం మనం. అసోసియేషన్ చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ అని అనిపించింది ప్రభుజీ. మొన్న ప్రభుజీ యుగల్ కిషోర్ ప్రభు తీసుకున్న క్లాస్ లో కూడా అన్ని మనకి తెలిసిన విషయాలు, అంటే తెలిసినవి అంటే మనం చాలా సార్లు సత్సంగంలో విన్న విషయాలు. అది సుప్రీం పర్సనాలిటీ ఆఫ్ గాడ్ హెడ్ లో మనం, ఆయన మనందరికి పరంగా ఉన్నాడు. కాలము, మహత్తత్వము, పరమాత్మ, ఈ మూడు కూడా ఆయనకంటే అబౌవ్ అన్నది చాలా సార్లు వింటున్నాం ప్రభుజీ. అయినా సరే అదొక చిన్న కన్ఫ్యూజన్ లాగా వస్తుంది. ఇది అంటే అది వేదమూర్తుల స్థుతుల వల్ల వచ్చిన కన్ఫ్యూజనా లేకపోతే ఏమిటో కానీ సాధారణంగా ఏంటవుతుందంటే వింటున్నప్పుడు తెలిసిపోయినట్టు అనిపిస్తుంది, మళ్ళీ ఈ సత్సంగం నుంచి దూరంగా వచ్చినప్పుడు మళ్ళీ మామూలు అయిపోతున్నాం ప్రభుజీ. అది ప్రభుజీ చెప్తున్నప్పుడు అవును నిజమే కదా, ఇవన్నీ మనం నేర్చుకుంటున్నాం ఈ సత్సంగంలో అనిపిస్తుంది, మళ్ళీ మర్చిపోతూ ఉంటాం. ఈ వేళ విన్న విషయం కూడా అదే ప్రభుజీ. ముందు కాన్షియస్నెస్, తర్వాత సోల్ కాన్షియస్నెస్, తర్వాత కృష్ణ కాన్షియస్నెస్. మనం నెమ్మదిగా సోల్ కాన్షియస్నెస్ లో కొద్దిగా ఎంటర్ అవుతున్నాము. దీన్ని సాధనతోటి కృష్ణ కాన్షియస్ కి పూర్తిగా తీసుకెళ్ళాలి. అని సత్సంగంలో కూర్చున్నప్పుడు బాగా అనిపిస్తుంది, సాధన చేస్తున్నప్పుడు అనిపిస్తుంది. కానీ గబుక్కుని మళ్ళీ మన రొటీన్ లో పడినప్పుడల్లా ఇవన్నీ మర్చిపోతూనే ఉంటున్నాం. ఈ మరుపు ఎందుకు వస్తుంది? అది ప్రభుజీ మరుపు ఒక రకంగా.
Go ahead. Sir, I don't know, Ma. I'll try to answer it in one way. See, Amma, so all these points, ఇప్పుడు యుగల్ కిషోర్ దాస్ ప్రభు చెప్పిన, మన భాగవతం చదువుకుంటూ డిస్కస్ చేసిన, భగవద్గీతలో చదువుకుంటూ డిస్కస్ చేసిన, the fundamental reason why we are discussing, talking all these things are to surrender and get that connection with God. That's the fundamental line of that's the end goal. That's the చరమ లక్ష్యం అంటుంటాం కదా తెలుగులో మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నా. అంటే ఆ లక్ష్యం కోసము ఈ రోజు విన్న పాయింట్ ఎంతవరకు ఉపయోగపడ్డది? వన్స్ వి హీర్ ఎ పాయింట్, అది 4-5 విధాలుగా తీసుకుంటాం. అరే, ఈ పాయింట్ ని వారు చక్కగా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు కదా, ఈ పాయింట్ నేను ఎలా మిస్ అయ్యాను, అరే ఈ పుస్తకంలో దీన్ని ఇంత చక్కగా వర్ణించారా, ఇదంతా కూడా ఏమవుతుంది, ఈ వర్ణన ఇదంతా కూడా దేనికి? ఈ పాయింట్ తెలుసుకోవడం వల్ల నేను భగవంతుడికి దగ్గర అవుతున్నానా లేదా? ఆ 4th పాయింట్ కానీ మనం ప్రతిసారి క్వశ్చన్ చేసుకుంటూ ఉంటే ఈ పాయింట్ లో ఉండే విషయం కంటే కూడా దాంట్లో ఉన్న మాధుర్యమే మనకు ఎక్కుద్ది. ఎప్పుడైతే ఆ మాధుర్యం ఎక్కుద్దో మనల్ని భగవంతుడి దగ్గర చేరుస్తుంది. ఇట్స్ లైక్ దిస్, ఐ టెల్ యూ అనదర్ అనాలజీ. ఇంట్లో అన్ని రకాల చీరలు ఉంటాయి. అదే షాప్లోకి మనం 10 సార్లు కొంటున్నాం. కానీ ఆ షాప్లోకి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత అదే రంగు చీర వేరే డిజైన్ కనబడుతుంది, అదే డిజైన్ వేరే రంగులో కనబడుతుంది. అరే, ఇది ఇంకా బాగుంది, అది ఇంకా బాగుంది, ఇది ఇంకా బాగుంది, అండ్ యూ గో అండ్ గెట్ వన్ మోర్ శారీ. But if you start looking at the fundamental reason of saree is to cover your body, it doesn't matter what the color and combination is. So the whole discussion of different aspects finally have to put us that connection establish చేయడానికి అనుకుంటే, ఏ రోజు టాపిక్ లో ఈ రోజు నేను 1 mm ఎక్కువ కనెక్షన్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళానా, 1 సెంటీమీటర్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళానా, how is this point helping me in Krishna consciousness? Then that's the fine. That's if we start thinking in that aspect, I don't think we'll get ourselves caught in how did I miss this point before. That's my take. That's what I am doing. At least each time now I'm reading something, అరే ఈ పాయింట్ అప్పుడు మర్చిపోయాను అనుకునే కంటే కూడా ఈ పాయింట్ వలన నేను ఈ రోజు తెలుసుకోవడం. ఎందుకంటే there are 2 different things are happening. అదే పాయింట్ ఆ రోజు ముందు ఎందుకు తెలుసుకోలేకపోయాము అంటే, అప్పుడు మనం ఉన్న స్థితి వేరు. చదువుతున్న కొద్దీ మన స్థితి మారుతున్న కొద్దీ ఆ పాయింట్ ఈ రోజు ఇంకో విధంగా కనబడుతుంది. ఐఎమ్ షూర్ రఘునందన్ ప్రభు ఇదే టాపిక్, ఇదే పాయింట్ 4-5 సార్లు చదువుంటారు భాగవతం ఆయన. కానీ ఈ రోజు డిస్కషన్ లో ఆయనకు ఇంకోలాగా అనిపించింది, ఇది కొత్త పాయింట్ లాగా, కొత్త డిస్కషన్ లాగా అనిపించింది. అది ఫస్ట్ టైం అనిపించకపోతుంది. నేను చదివినప్పుడు కూడా నాకు ఫస్ట్ టైం అనిపించలేదు, తర్వాత ఇప్పుడు అనిపించింది. అంటే నా కాన్షియస్నెస్ ఇస్ డిఫరెంట్. సో యాక్చువల్లీ ఐ షుడ్ బి హ్యాపీ నౌ ఇట్ ఇస్ లుకింగ్ డిఫరెంట్. బట్ నౌ మై గోల్, నాకు ఉండాల్సిన ఒక లక్ష్యం ఏమైనా ఉంది అంటే, దీని వలన నేను ఈ రోజు ఇది మూసిన తర్వాత చేసే కార్యక్రమం, దీని వలన అది కృష్ణుడి దగ్గరికి తీసుకెళ్ళడానికి ఏ విధంగా ఉపయోగపడడానికి ఇది ఉపయోగపడుతుంది, ఏ విధంగా ఉపయోగపడడానికి ఇది దీనిని నేను ఉపయోగించుకుంటున్నాను అన్న పాయింట్, అన్న దృష్టిలో ఆలోచించడం మొదలు పెడితే ఐ థింక్ you'll come out of this memory and forgetfulness and all that kind of anxiety. That's అని నాకు అనిపిస్తుంది. I don't know if somebody, Lilananda Prabhuji or Santosh Aditya Prabhuji, somebody want to add something. Raghunandan Prabhuji wants to add something. Please let me.
Hare Krishna. What you said is right, Prabhu.
Yes.
See, that's why these are called revealed scriptures. Revealed itself based on the consciousness which we are in. And the same thing what you tell, I also think about the same way. So every time it is always dynamic. Krishna's world is always dynamic. So we cannot say that we have read it, it is finished.
Yes.
So every time we get a new taste in that. That's what I also think.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Emma Balamani Mataji, I don't know if this helped the discussion.
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ, డెఫినెట్ గా ఎందుకంటే మనలో ప్రోగ్రెస్ అన్నది తెలుస్తుంది అనమాట. దీనివల్ల అసోసియేషన్ వల్లే తెలుస్తుంది ప్రభుజీ. నథింగ్ బట్ అసోసియేషన్. ఎందుకంటే స్క్రిప్చర్స్ చదువుతున్నాము, 16 రౌండ్స్ చేస్తున్నాము, 24 గంటలు మాక్సిమం ఆలోచనలోనే ఉండాలని ట్రై చేస్తున్నాము. అలా ఉన్నప్పుడు మనకి నిజంగానే డైనమిక్ గా ఉంటుంది అనుకుంటా.
హోల్ దక్షయజ్ఞం 7వ అధ్యాయం అయిపోతే ఇంక అయిపోతుంది. how association has helped you, one person, to overcome his selfish, egocentric thought process to selfless, surrendering thought process. That's all. That's what I thought, basically. Maybe next time I'll get a better understanding, but for now, that was my understanding on this. The 7 chapters of Dakshayagni.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody, any more questions, Prabhuji and Matajis? Hare Krishna. Then if we don't have anything, it's already 9 o'clock. I think we'll end the class here. And tomorrow, Giras Prabhu will continue from this topic. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vaishnav Vrindani ki jai. Vancha Kalpuru.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavad.
Hare Krishna. Dandavad.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Raghunandan Prabhuji. Thank you for showing your beautiful face. Missing you all. Missing you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
I'm
Prabhuji.
stopping
Thank you.
recording here. If you want to talk, you can talk.
Thank you, Subbarao Prabhu. Haribol, wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji.